I thought I was just asking for a massage. I didn't realize I was handing over my body, and maybe more, to the one person I shouldn't want. But the moment Leo's hands touched me that night, I knew something dangerous had already started. It was supposed to be just another night. The kind where the TV hums quietly in the background, the air smells faintly of takeout, and Leo walks around shirtless like it's the most natural thing in the world. And maybe in our apartment it was, but lately even the ordinary had started to feel dangerous. We weren't new to living together. It had been a little over 8 months since I moved in, after a messy lease breakup and a desperate call that ended with Leo saying, "I've got space. Come crash here." At the time, I didn't hesitate. We'd known each other for years, bonded in college over music, sarcasm, and a mutual hatred of group projects. Living with Leo had felt easy, comfortable,
Familiar.
too familiar, because comfort turns slippery when one of you starts noticing how the other's towel always hangs just low enough to make you wonder, when casual touches start lingering longer than they should, when laughter from the next room reaches your chest, before it even hits your ears. That's when things stop being simple. Tonight was one of those nights. The gym had wrecked my shoulders. My back was tight, sore, and screaming for relief. I walked into the apartment half limping and collapsed face down on the couch. Leo was in the kitchen, sipping water straight from the bottle, condensation slipping down his forearm, barefoot, in gray sweatpants, looking as effortlessly at ease as always, which only made it harder to breathe. "You good?" he called, glancing over. I groaned, face buried in the cushion. "Back's killing me. Think I pulled something trying to be a hero on the lat pull-down." He chuckled and walked over, the air shifting with his nearness. "You want me to work on it?" The question hung longer than it should have. My brain scrambled to decode the words, to check if I'd misheard. But when I looked up, he was already cracking his knuckles, that slow, amused grin on his face. "I mean, if you're cool with it," he added, shrugging. "I give decent massages. Worked at a spa for like 2 months. Remember?" I remembered, too well. He'd hated the uniform but loved the tips. And even back then, I'd wondered what those hands could do. But now, with him standing above me, that old fantasy was dangerously close to reality. I hesitated, trying to laugh it off. But something in his eyes made my stomach twist. He looked too calm, too confident, like he knew exactly what he was doing. "I don't know," I started, unsure how to say. "Please don't touch me unless you're ready to ruin me." But I didn't say it. He just smirked and moved to the edge of the couch. "Come on, lie down. I won't bite." The air between us thickened. My muscles ached, but not in the usual way. This ache was deeper, lower, hungrier. I shifted slowly, lying face down on the couch, arms tucked beneath my head. And that's when I realized I should have said no. But part of me had already imagined his hands on me, too many times to resist. The second my chest hit the cushion, a different kind of tension spread through me. Not from soreness, but from the fact that I was about to let Leo, my best friend, my too-close-for-comfort roommate, put his hands on me, skin to skin, deliberate, intimate, and I didn't know who I'd be by the time he was done. I took a shallow breath, folded my arms under my head. A soft throw blanket draped loosely over my waist, not because it was cold, but because being partially covered made everything feel more exposed. My shirt was off, my back bare, my thoughts loud. I could feel the soft heat from the ceiling light, and the faint hum of the TV in the background. But none of it mattered, not when anticipation pulsed hot beneath my skin. Leo didn't speak. Right away. Even his silence felt louder than anything he could have said. I heard the cushion creak as he adjusted behind me, felt the slight dip as his weight settled in. And then, nothing. Not awkward silence. Charged silence. Like he was giving me one last chance to back out. But I didn't move. Didn't speak. Then it started. His palms pressed gently into my shoulders, the warmth of his skin meeting mine, sending a jolt through every muscle. He moved with purpose, thumbs circling slowly, pressing down into knots I didn't even know I had. My jaw clenched, my toes curled. It wasn't just that he was good, though God it was the way he touched me, focused, measured, like he was listening to my body's response, instead of just going through the motions. "You're stiff," he murmured, almost to himself, somewhere between a joke and something more. I swallowed. "Told you. Bad lift." His thumbs slid lower, dragging the tension from my upper back. But he didn't stop at the safe spots. His fingers spread wider, sliding down the center of my back, and curling slowly around the sides of my ribs, not just relieving pressure, but tracing me, learning me. He shifted closer. I felt his knee graze my hip. The space between us narrowed. His breath, soft, steady, maybe a little shallow. Mine started to match it, whether I wanted it to or not. "You always sound so soft when I do this," he said quietly, like he wasn't sure if he meant to say it out loud. My throat tightened. I wanted to say something playful, anything to break the tension, but my voice wouldn't work, because he wasn't wrong. I was soft. I was unraveling beneath him, aching in a way no massage could fix. His hands moved lower, not in a way anyone could call inappropriate. Just enough. The pads of his thumbs traced down my spine, slow and deliberate, until they reached the dip of my lower back. He hesitated, just for a moment, then flattened his palms again. Right away, even his silence felt louder than anything he could have said. I heard the cushion creak as he adjusted behind me, felt the slight dip as his weight settled in. And then, nothing. Not awkward silence. Charged silence. Like he was giving me one last chance to back out. But I didn't move. Didn't speak. Then it started. His palms pressed gently into my shoulders, the warmth of his skin meeting mine, sending a jolt through every muscle. He moved with purpose, thumbs circling slowly, pressing down into knots I didn't even know I had. My jaw clenched, my toes curled. It wasn't just that he was good, though God it was the way he touched me, focused, measured, like he was listening to my body's response, instead of just going through the motions. "You're stiff," he murmured, almost to himself, somewhere between a joke and something more. I swallowed. "Told you. Bad lift." His thumbs slid lower, dragging the tension from my upper back. But he didn't stop at the safe spots. His fingers spread wider, sliding down the center of my back, and curling slowly around the sides of my ribs, not just relieving pressure, but tracing me, learning me. He shifted closer. I felt his knee graze my hip. The space between us narrowed. His breath, soft, steady, maybe a little shallow. Mine started to match it, whether I wanted it to or not. "You always sound so soft when I do this," he said quietly, like he wasn't sure if he meant to say it out loud. My throat tightened. I wanted to say something playful, anything to break the tension, but my voice wouldn't work, because he wasn't wrong. I was soft. I was unraveling beneath him, aching in a way no massage could fix. His hands moved lower, not in a way anyone could call inappropriate. Just enough. The pads of his thumbs traced down my spine, slow and deliberate, until they reached the dip of my lower back. He hesitated, just for a moment, then flattened his palms again, like it was the only thing, pretending this was still something innocent, and maybe we both knew it wasn't. Then came his voice again, lower now, strained, intimate. "If you want me to stop," he murmured, "just say the word." But I couldn't. Instead, I shifted slightly, slowly, just enough to let the blanket slide down, baring the small of my back, to the quiet air between us. I kept my eyes forward, afraid of what his would show. My silence said everything, but that movement, that small surrender, said even more. His fingers resumed. Only now, they weren't massaging. They were exploring. They skimmed along the curve of my spine, trailing upward in soft, reverent sweeps that had nothing to do with easing tension. and everything to do with creating it. He traced the dip of my waist, pausing where skin met fabric. Still, he wasn't rushed, wasn't bold. He was reverent, like he was touching something. He didn't believe he was allowed to feel again. I bit my lip, trying to stay still, but my body betrayed me. My back arched, just a little, and he exhaled, long and quiet, like he was releasing whatever restraint he still had. His thumbs circled back inward, his body leaning closer. I could feel the heat of his breath brush the back of my shoulder. His knees pressed into the couch, framing me. He still hadn't said another word, still hadn't touched anything explicit. But everything he did spoke louder than words. Every stroke of his hands brought us closer to a line we hadn't yet crossed. Then I made a sound, a soft, breathy release, when his fingertips brushed just under the edge of the blanket again. Barely a touch, but it tore through me, and he heard it. I know he did, because he stilled, not pulling away, just suspended, like he was listening to everything I hadn't said. I didn't need to look. I could feel his eyes on me, feel the weight of the moment teetering between us. Then, his voice, low and rough. If I keep going, you know it won't stop here, right? It wasn't a warning. It wasn't even a confession. It was a promise, wrapped in hesitation. I turned, slowly, pushing myself up just enough to shift onto my side. The blanket caught at my hips, slipping lower, exposing more of my back. My side, the quiet curve of want. I was no longer hiding. I looked up at him, and for a moment, I wasn't sure what I saw. Want, doubt, the weight of everything we'd left unsaid. Confusion, desire, guilt, hunger, and behind all of it, something soft, something that looked a little like fear. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. I didn't look away. The look in his eyes shifted, not to dominance or lust, but to something raw, something honest, something you can't fake. His hand came up slowly, brushing a strand of hair from my face, with the back of his fingers. His touch was light, but it carried the weight of every lingering glance, every breathless laugh. Every morning I'd watched him walk around shirtless, pretending it meant nothing. He leaned in, close enough for me to feel the warmth of his breath, mint from the gum he always chewed after midnight. But he didn't kiss me, not yet. His lips hovered above mine, trembling, waiting for me to break the silence. But I didn't need to say a word. I leaned forward. The kiss was soft at first, not testing, not unsure, but tender, almost scared, like we both knew, the second it deepened, everything would change. And still, we kissed anyway. His lips parted with a sigh. His hand slid behind my neck, guiding me gently down against the couch. The blanket shifted. His chest brushed my side. He exhaled, a shaky, unguarded sound. When our skin met beneath the fabric, his hand moved again, down my back, across my waist, until his fingers found the edge of the blanket. He didn't ask this time. He just pulled it back, slowly, carefully, like he was unwrapping something fragile. And then, his lips found my skin, soft, slow. At first, I barely registered the contact. But then he kissed me again, a little higher, a little longer, like he was trying to feel how I responded. With nothing but his mouth. Warmth bloomed where he touched me. The blanket that once separated us now lay useless at my hips, my body half bared beneath him, vibrating with disbelief. This was really happening. And the scariest part? It didn't feel rushed. It didn't feel like a mistake. It felt intentional. Leo's hands moved again, fingertips tracing my sides, gliding toward my ribs, then back down with aching precision. Each touch felt like discovery, like he was learning me, with reverence and awe. And his voice, barely a whisper now, broke the quiet between us. "God," he murmured, "you feel so good under me." I wanted to reply, but my voice had melted into sensation. Every nerve in me was awake, twitching, tight with need. I pressed my face into the couch, chest rising and falling with shallow breath, trying not to fall too fast. But it was already too late. The pressure of each kiss built slowly, like a question he already knew the answer to, but needed to ask anyway. When he reached the middle of my back, he paused. His hands slid up, then around, settling just beneath my chest. Fingers splayed like he was anchoring himself to me. "Why didn't we do this sooner?" he whispered. Came out half a laugh, half a groan, like he hated how long he'd waited, like the hunger he'd been holding back had finally cracked open. I turned my head just enough to catch the edge of his jaw in the dim light. His hair was tousled, lips parted, eyes locked somewhere on my skin, like he couldn't look away. My voice came out low, barely more than breath. "Because we were pretending." He met my eyes for a second, then leaned down, his lips brushing my shoulder blade. "I'm done pretending," he murmured. His hand slid lower again, this time across my stomach. As he shifted behind me, his legs bracketing mine, his chest pressed fully to my back. His breath touched my ear, unsteady but heavy with something deeper. "Want." Then a kiss, just below my earlobe, and I shivered. "You have no idea how long I've wanted this," he whispered. My answer came in the way my body arched into his, how my hand found the side of his thigh, gripping gently, not pulling him closer, just asking him not to stop. His hips pressed in, his chest molded to mine. His lips moved to my neck, then lower again, tracing a slow, burning line down the side of my spine, this time with his tongue. I gasped. He paused, his lips hovering against my skin. "You okay?" he asked softly.
Inodiet fast.
"Don't stop." And he didn't. Leo pulled the blanket the rest of the way off, slow and reverent, like he was unveiling something sacred. His hands moved like he'd waited a lifetime to know me this way.
No fumbling. No rush.
Only careful, patient touch, so sensual it stole the air from my lungs. He kissed along my side, then down again, each press of his mouth sending tremors through my chest, my stomach, my thighs. When he finally leaned back to look at me, I turned my head and met his gaze. His eyes were dark, wild, but grounded, not just by want, but by something steadier, something that made my heart tighten. "You're beautiful," he said, almost like he didn't mean to say it aloud. My breath caught, but before I could reply, he moved again, over me, above me, guiding me onto my back, gently, with both hands. His fingers touched my shoulders, my waist, then slipped beneath my knees, repositioning me against the couch like I was something fragile. And then, I was there, laid out beneath him, fully seen. I watched his face change, unsure if he should be here, or if he could stop now that he was. "I've never done this before," he said, voice unsteady. "With a guy." I reached up, my fingers brushing the inside of his wrist. "Then don't try to be perfect. Just don't disappear." He gave a low, nervous laugh. "That's not what I'm worried about." "Then what are you worried about?" He swallowed. "That once I start, I won't be able to stop." I leaned up and kissed him, harder this time, with everything I didn't know how to say. And that was all it took. The next few minutes became a blur of heat and hands, mouths and soft moans, bodies finding each other, with aching urgency. He kissed me deeply, with hunger and wonder, as if he was discovering me for the first time, and couldn't believe I was real. He traced his lips down my chest, circled along my ribs, kissed the softest places, like they meant everything. And when his hips pressed into mine, bare skin brushing bare skin, the weight of him, the scent of him, the sound of our breathing, it all hit at once. Overwhelming, inescapable, real. But somehow, we didn't rush. That was the most surprising part. Even though we were both starving, there was no desperation, only intention. We wanted to feel all of it, to remember this. His fingers tangled in my hair, my legs wrapped around his hips. Our mouths found each other again and again, kissing through laughter, through whispered curses, through disbelief, that this was actually happening. "Tell me this isn't just in my head," he whispered once, his voice cracking. "It's not," I said, pulling him in. "I've wanted this for so long." He breathed out like he couldn't believe it. I didn't answer with words, just a kiss. One that told him I didn't know what came next, but I didn't want it to stop. His hand found mine, fingers lacing tightly, as we moved together, slow at first, learning, listening, groans muffled against skin. His name fell from my mouth, again and again, sometimes in surprise, sometimes in need, and every time, he answered, with his lips, his hands, his breath, warm against my throat. When the rhythm changed, it wasn't urgency, it was understanding. Our bodies had found their own language, and they spoke it fluently. I held on, chest to chest, heart to heart. His hips moved with mine, and I felt myself unravel, caught in the narrow space between release and surrender. And when we finally fell over that edge, together, it wasn't loud, it wasn't wild, it was still. Only the sound of our breathing, the soft whisper of his lips, pressed to my shoulder. As he buried his face there, arms tightening around me, like he couldn't let go. My heart pounded so hard, I thought it might break open. I stared up at the ceiling, dazed and trembling, every inch of me alive, with the echo of what we just shared. We didn't move for a long time. We stayed tangled, the room dim and silent, except for the ticking of the clock, and the slow return of our breath, to something almost normal. His hand rested on my chest, fingers brushing gently, like he still couldn't stop touching me. And then, barely more than a whisper, I asked, "What does this mean now?" He didn't answer, not right away, and somehow, I already knew, this wasn't over. Next morning came too softly, as if the world didn't want to wake us. I stirred beneath a blanket that smelled like both of us. My skin still hummed, in the places he'd touched, the places he'd memorized, just hours before. But the warmth of him was gone. Only the dent in the couch beside me remained, quiet proof that he'd stayed long enough to matter. I lay still, listening, for his breath, his footsteps, anything, but all I heard was the low hum of the fridge and the faint traffic outside, as if the universe had already moved on. I sat up slowly. My body ached, not from the massage, but from everything after. The night clung to me, its weight, its wonder, etched across my skin. But now, in the quiet light of day, it all felt more uncertain, like whatever we had opened was already curling back into shadow. I pulled on my shirt, my fingers moving on autopilot, trying to piece together what came next. Last night had undone something between us, something buried, something powerful. But now, with clarity creeping in, felt like we were standing at the edge of something neither of us knew how to name. The kitchen was quiet. Leo stood by the sink, his back to me, still shirtless, but now it felt different, less casual, more exposed. He held his usual mug, the black one with the chipped edge, the faded logo from that band we used to love in college. His other hand was pressed flat against the counter, like he needed it to stay grounded. The muscles in his back shifted, with each slow breath, but he didn't turn. I stood in the doorway, waiting, hoping, for a look, a smile, anything that said we were okay. He didn't give it, so I crossed the room and opened the fridge, pretending to be just another roommate, starting just another day. But the silence between us wasn't routine. It was heavy, deliberate, and it made my chest ache. I poured a glass of juice, the sound of the liquid, the only thing filling the space between us. I leaned back against the counter, watching him from the corner of my eye. His shoulders were tight, nothing like last night. Last night, he breathed like he couldn't get close enough. Now, he stood like he didn't know how to be near me at all. "So," I said quietly, setting the glass down. "Last night." He didn't answer at first. His eyes stayed fixed on the sink, like the faucet might offer him some kind of escape. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked around the edges. Yeah, about that. I waited. He exhaled hard, like every word was a battle. I don't know what that was. The sentence hit my chest like stone. Cold, flat, unfair. You don't know? I asked, my voice hollow. He turned slowly to face me, and somehow, that made it worse. The look in his eyes. Guilt, conflict, distance. I wasn't planning for any of it, he said quickly. It just happened. And I got caught up and you looked. God. You looked so. He stopped himself, raking a hand through his hair, eyes darting away. I don't know. Maybe it was a mistake. A mistake. I repeated, the word metallic in my mouth. He winced. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean, Leo? His name felt sharp now, not soft like it had the night before. He shook his head. I mean, I don't know what to do with it. With us. That hit deeper than I expected. More than I knew how to carry. And now I'm scared, I said, cutting in before he could drown the moment in silence again. My voice came out sharper than I meant, because this was real and terrifying. He didn't say a word, and somehow that silence said everything. I stood there, heart pounding with disbelief, betrayal, and something I couldn't name. I had let him in, let him touch me, in places no one ever had, in ways no one ever dared. And now he stood here, talking like it had all just been some heat-of-the-moment accident. Something impulsive, forgettable. I shook my head, stepping away. From the counter. From the kitchen. From him. I can't do this, I said, quieter now. Wait. He stepped forward, but I stopped him with a look.
No.
You don't get to pull me in like that. Make me feel like I mattered, then hide behind confusion the second it gets complicated. I'm not hiding. Yes, I said firmly. You are. He fell silent again. I grabbed my phone from the coffee table, my hoodie from the back of the chair. I didn't know where I was going, only that I needed to leave, before I said something I couldn't take back. I reached the front door, hand on the knob, when I heard his voice again, softer this time, like it took everything in him just to say it. It wasn't just the massage, he said. I froze. You know that, right? He added, his voice cracking. I turned halfway, just enough to see the ache in his eyes. But I didn't answer. Couldn't. Because if I said anything now, I might stay. And if I stayed, I didn't know what would happen. So I closed the door behind me. And even as I walked away, part of me stayed in that room with him, still trembling, still wanting, still wondering if last night was just the beginning, or the one moment we'll spend the rest of our lives pretending never happened.